Welcome to Dadtrepreneur, the podcast tailor-made for the modern man balancing personal development, business, and family. This is Dadtrepreneur.
What's going on, guys? My name is Billy, and this is Jared.
What's going on?
And this is the Dadtrepreneur podcast, where we discuss all things man, even the stuff men don't want to talk about.
Interesting topic. Mm-hmm.
Episode one. It's been quite a road to get here, man. We've been talking about this for months.
Well, some things came up, right?
Yeah. We're going to get to that.
Which we'll dive into, right? So that's funny because that's how I was going to start. It's 2023.
Yeah.
Right? All went downhill March for both of us.
Yeah. Almost identical. Within days of
days.
Yeah.
Days apart. So
yeah.
Obviously, if you don't mind talking about it.
Yeah, man, of course. I mean, March 16th, my wife passed in a car accident, a single car accident in Jupiter, Florida. And, we were together for 10 years. We were married for 1, which I feel was a huge mistake on my part. I should have married her much earlier. So guys, don't waste your time, when it comes to that stuff. If you love a chick and you guys are together, you have a baby together, it's time. I put that off. I put that on myself. You know what I mean? So she passed, and I was left with a 3.5-year-old girl. I've never been a little girl, so to be raising a little girl on my own it's tough, dude.
What would you say? It's kind of a 2-part question, right?
Yeah.
Because you said you wish you married her earlier.
I do.
So what would you say the main hesitation was?
You know what, man? You ever see that Jim Carrey quote where it's like, "I love you so much, I want to get the government involved"?
No, but I like it.
So that's a really famous Jim Carrey quote about marriage. And I don't know, I kind of had that attitude where the paper doesn't mean anything and blah, blah, blah. And she was a really free-spirited kind of girl.
Yes.
She didn't really care, And I don't know, I think it was a fear thing as well. I think there were some things behind it that I just felt this hesitation, and I don't know, I just, when I look back on it now, I asked her to marry me a year into our relationship. So it was like an 8-year engagement,
Yeah.
which is insanely long.
Yeah.
Way too long. I think once we had the baby, that's when I really should have done it. I can't pinpoint one thing on why it didn't happen. It just never happened. And I didn't take the action to push it forward. So I kind of bear the responsibility of that, as a man, you know what I mean?
Right. And so 2-part question, as I said.
Yeah.
So what would you say the hardest, and it's still fresh, very fresh.
Yeah.
Obviously.
I mean, it's been 5 months.
What would you say the hardest part of navigating this whole thing is? I'm assuming being a single father and having to pick up all that. I can only imagine, obviously, right? So my wife does, I don't even know what percentage.
No, it's a high percentage.
A high percentage of everything.
Yeah.
Right. So
same.
I could only imagine. So would you say that is the main hurdle is adjusting your schedule and mapping all of that out so you could kind of pick up the slack?
That's certainly a big part of it. Obviously the other part of it is the loss of somebody who was so important in your life. It's really crazy, when you think about this person that's been around you for so long and all you have left is their clothes and an empty parking space and a box with them in it. It's just, you don't think about that stuff in your day-to-day life until it happens, and then when it happens, it's like, I can't believe that someone's whole life, all their experiences are reduced down to this minuscule amount of bull, So I think wrapping my mind around that and facing my own mortality was really the hardest part. Thinking that one day, nobody cheats death. You know what I mean? It's 100% success rate that we're all going to die someday. To think that one day that'll be me, that was really the big thing for me. It took me a while to really put my head around that. And then of course, like you said, I mean, she did everything, especially for our child. I mean, we had a girl. So it'd be different if it was a boy, I've been a little boy, I've never been a little girl, like I said. So I didn't even know how to put her hair in a ponytail, dude.
Yeah.
It's it's just entering an entirely new world.
Yeah, it's ultra intimidating. So I have nieces, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm petrified of that. It's different once it's your daughter, obviously,
Of
but
course.
it's such a huge adjustment because I have a little boy.
Yeah.
So it's like, I just get petrified by the idea. I understand it's different when it's your daughter, but I can only understand so much, you know? So
of course,
all of it is hard, right?
Oh yeah. I mean,
the schedule, picking up the slack. And what would you say has helped you the most thus far through this entire journey?
Other people, without a doubt. I mean, you know, you being one of them, you know, and the outreach from the community was overwhelming. I couldn't believe it, you know, like it's really a testament to, you know, who she was as a person, you know, and I guess who I am too, just us. And like, it was really like an overwhelming act of love from a lot of people. You know, I'd say the only offside to that is at the end of the day, I'm still just me alone with my thoughts. There was a big mental hurdle that I had to face personally, you know, that nobody could help me with. All the support in the world can't help you with it. Where, you know, you have to come to grips with, okay, well, this is my new life, whether I like it or not, you know, and I have to find this path forward, even though the road looks unwalkable. And, you know, I have to find new love in my life. I have to find new meaning in my life. And like to be going through all those things at, you know, 34 is just not something I ever dreamed would happen. And I'll tell you, it's absolutely changed me as a human being. I'm definitely a very different person now than I have ever been.
Which I know, right?
Yeah, of course.
I know that a lot of what you've been through previously has kind of molded you
to
be able to handle that type of stuff.
Definitely, yeah.
And obviously, if you're open to talking about that, like what would you say? I know what it is, but what would you say that the number one thing that kind of molded you to be?
Right. I mean, who I am.
Exactly, right?
Yeah,
like
I mean, so it's no secret. You know, I've been sober 6.5 years now. December will be 7 years. And, you know, I was heavily hooked on alcohol, pain medication, and I would smoke some weed here and there. That ran my life for so many years. And for whatever reason, man, you know, when I turned 27, I was like, I just don't want to do this anymore. You know, my life was terrible. I'll never forget. I was like on Facebook and I was seeing all these kids that I went to high school with becoming pharmacists, doctors, having lives. You were one of them. Like, man, this guy's doing so well, you know, and I'm living in a 99 Mazda, you know, like something's wrong here. I went to a 12-step program. I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, and though that program changed my life in a way that I never thought was possible. And it gave me this like firm foundation of how to be as a human being, morals, integrity, and all these things that I was void of. It filled those gaps. And, you know, they told me for years, I used to go to a lot of men's meetings where there was a lot of older gentlemen, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s, been sober 20, 30, 40 years. And they told me that it's not if life shows up, it's when it shows up, that all these tools that we've given you, you're going to put them into action. And it did. You know, life showed up in a really bad way. And I'll tell you, the last thing on my mind was picking up a drink or a drug. You know, the first thing on my mind was daughter. You know, how do I create a safe space for her? How do I even handle this? You know, going through all the painful steps of death. For those who have lost loved ones, you know, there's so many steps to go through when someone leaves, and it's mind-blowing that it has to be that difficult. But all of that gave me the tools to be able to walk through that as best I could.
Which right is part of the problem is social media, all the shit that people see on the outside looking in. Meanwhile, they have no clue.
No idea.
Nobody can try to put themselves in your shoes.
Absolutely
not even remotely close. I'm sure you're struggling to find people that can.
Yeah.
And then you have to deal with that, right? You have to deal with the people that are most likely reaching out or talking behind your back and making their assumptions. And look, it's human nature to make your assumptions when you see something from the outside looking in. Social media is one thing, and then you find out another thing, right?
And you know the truth. Social media is the great liar of our generation. It's a highlight reel, dude. You know, everybody puts their best moments on there. And when this all first happened, I actually was putting my worst moments on there. I think when I stopped doing that, people took this position of, oh, well, he must be just magically all better now. You know, he must not care. And it's like, well, no, you know, I was really hurting and I needed other people's opinions, and I got them. You know, and then I picked the people who I wanted close, and those are the people that I spoke to. because like you can't keep airing your dirty laundry for the whole world to see. You know what I mean? That's not a good look.
There's two sides, just like in anything. Yeah. So some people are probably like, oh, he deleted the pictures. Okay. Yeah. I deleted the pictures, but I had them in the cloud.
Yeah.
Like, and I get it. Like, I get it only as much as I can. Yeah. I personally would not want to be looking at that. Like, how long do you want to look at that for?
And that's the thing too. You know, it's like you hear stories about people who go on for years, you know, in this process. And like, that just can't be me for many reasons. Like, you know, I have a little girl who like really needs me now more than ever. And like, what good am I to her if I'm this mess who's stuck because this terrible thing happened? I'm useless to her. If anything, I'm doing her more harm than has already come to her. So I made a decision really early on that like, no matter what, I put on a smiling face and I'd walk through this life the best I can. And, you know, while I still have these moments of grief and despair and confusion, you know, those are for me. You know, those aren't for anybody else. Those are for me to experience and feel and work through. And every time I get those, I end up feeling a little better again. And then they come a little less. You know, they come a little further spaced out. And the only thing I can really attribute that to is you know, my time in the program giving me those inner tools to really help deal with that stuff and not turn to, you know, alcohol, drugs, things like that to just mask. You know, I can't mask. I don't have that convenience. I gave up that convenience a long time ago. Yeah. So for me, it's I have to use those character skills in order to just move through these things, and I just face them head on.
Which is the point, right? So I know that I could not do that. I think that I would be. I have no clue. I don't know. I wanted to say I would be one way.
You don't,
but I know that I'm full of shit because I have no clue.
Oh, look, you know, I've plenty of times in my life I have seen someone go through a situation. I've been like, I don't know if I could do that, or I would do that differently. And the truth is, you don't know. You don't know until you're in those shoes, just exactly what you would do. You have an idea of what you think the perfect situation would be for you to handle that. But once it's thrown in your face, then the real you comes out. And there's just no way to predict it. You're a strong guy, man. I think you could do that. I really do.
Obviously, look, I hope I never have to.
I really hope. Oh, of course. I would never suggest anything like that either. I hope you nor Daniela have to deal with that for 40, 50 years from now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think if a tragedy entered your life, you're man enough to understand it and move through that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not one of those people who would cower and fall apart.
Yeah.
Because, you know, enough about me. I mean, you know, your situation is pretty bad too, man. I mean, 2023 hasn't really been that kind to you either.
No. So March 20th, I went in for my initial back surgery, which was supposed to be a simple, not routine surgery, because no spinal surgery is routine, right?
But like this guy has done like how many?
Oh God. He does on average 3 to 4, 3 times a week. So let's say 10 to 12 per week consistently for a very long time.
That's a lot.
Right?
Yeah.
So I did my research. It's not like I rushed into this, as you know, but I had a back injury for 7 years before committing to surgery. I've tried everything you could think of. I've tried stem cells. I've tried the chiropractor, massages multiple times a week. I've tried anything and everything to avoid surgery. And finally, I committed to surgery. So I went in March 20th, did the surgery, got out the next, I was in the hospital for a day, then got out the following day. Everything seemed okay in the very, very beginning, and then everything went south, right?
Yeah.
So
how do you think you got the injury?
I'm 90% sure that the initial injury was in hockey, in a brawl.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Started a brawl, and I got cross-checked from behind. So the goalie came full speed from behind. I had no clue, and took his hockey stick and put it in my low back. Oh. And I was stuck, dude. I went to the ground. I was crippled for, I couldn't get up.
Yeah.
So I was young. I was very young. So I recovered.
Oh, of course. You snapped back quick.
3 days later, I'm okay.
Yeah.
You know? So I ignored it. And then I know when the real problem came was squatting. And like an idiot, because I didn't want to be embarrassed, I pushed through. So on the third or fourth rep, I felt it. I knew it happened, and I pushed through when I should have dropped the weight.
Did you hear it?
Felt it, heard it.
Oh, God.
You name it.
Oh, God.
Yep.
Guys, don't do that. Don't do that. If you hear any weird popping, cracking noises in the gym, stop. Stop immediately and leave.
Yeah. Lesson learned.
Yeah.
I also recommend you don't go ultra heavy. It's completely unnecessary.
Correct.
But at this time, I was just happy to be doing heavy weight for me.
Yeah.
It's 4 plates.
Yeah, that's still pretty
right?
good. Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's impressive. So I was just happy to be doing that, and I didn't want to be embarrassed. No one wants to drop weight, but at the same time, I let my ego get in the way, and now I'm paying for it, really severely paying for it. So March 20th goes by, I get out, everything's fine, and then probably 3 days go by, I'm in severe pain. I'm calling the doctors on the weekends. I'm in tears. Yeah. I'm in tears. Like, I am in excruciating pain. I can't get out of bed without help. If I had to go somewhere, I would have to have my brother come and pick me up out of bed. So that keeps going on for weeks and weeks. Probably a month passes, and finally I get my second MRI, and the MRI finally shows that there's something there. So they don't tell me what it is. I get a call on a Saturday, and I could hear it in his voice.
Yeah.
I could tell. First of all, you're calling me on a Saturday.
Yeah, it's never good.
Why are you calling me on a Saturday?
Yeah.
And I could just hear it in his voice. I'm like, something's wrong. And they're like, we need to see you immediately. Come in Tuesday. And it's just Tuesdays because on Monday he does surgeries. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, all right, something's wrong, as I expected.
Yeah. You knew the whole thing.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, like, for those who don't know, I was here with him, and your lips were purple, your face was white. It was very clear that, like, something was very wrong.
Yeah. 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 And you don't realize. So I obviously fast forward a little bit. I go to the doctor. Something's wrong. There's an infection. You're going in tomorrow, literally. Mm-hmm. So I go for a checkup, basically, not a checkup, a follow-up from the scan. And I find out that I'm going into the hospital the next day. I have to go through the ER. Everything was so quick, you know? Yeah. And obviously the intention was not to go in for multiple surgeries, but I go in. The first one was a cleanup. They cleaned up for bacteria, which does nothing. So they cut me open again. Right. They cleaned me out, and obviously caused a lot of pain. And I wake up only to be told that, you know, nothing really happened. Nothing changed. It takes days for fungus to show in the cultures. Oh. So they go in, they take their cultures while they did the cleanup. Yeah. And it took 4 days for the cultures to appear. And then once the 4th day came, it's like, oh, it's a fungus. Wow. And then boom, everything had to shift and adjust. Then I had to go in for another surgery, and that was a cleanup again.
So we're on surgery 3 now.
Total, yes. That's surgery 3. Surgery 3 was the cleanup for the actual fungus, which they used the proper stuff this time.
Right.
So went through the back again that time. That's the 3rd time being opened in the same wound on my back. And again, nothing really happened. I felt a little bit better, I would say, from the cleanup, but it wasn't enough. And then my last surgery was June 6th. So I was in the hospital for 2 weeks and a day. Yeah, 2 weeks and a day. June 6th was my last surgery. That surgery, they had to go through the front. So they went through the front. They cut me open like below my belly button, a good amount below my belly button, because I had a hernia surgery in August, because I'm just blessed with surgeries. And they went in through the front. They had to basically move stuff around, obviously, to be able to reach my back. So they did another final clean out, and they took the hardware out and they replaced it with a actual piece of bone graft. So in the front, and which my opinion is, the only 2 things that could have gone wrong that caused the fungus is the hospital, the OR, or the actual piece that was in the front, the actual hardware that was in the front. Right. It's pretty easy process of elimination, right? Yeah. And the only argument to be made was, oh, you got it at home. Okay, then why is there another guy with it? You know?
Right. Yeah.
So that rules that out, but whatever. That doesn't matter right now. So yeah, they went through the front, they did that, they did the bone graft. I woke up in a ton of pain the next day, but then a day later, I was night and day different.
Yeah.
So the majority of the issue was from the fungus. And I didn't even realize how much of it was.
You know, it's so funny. You know, you hear about people getting infections. I mean, that's a rather common thing, which if it was just an infection, there definitely could have been a really strong argument that you got it at home, right? Because you had an open wound. I mean, I remember looking at it. But like, to get a fungus growing on your bone, on your spine, I mean, that's like, how rare is that? Did they tell you?
Oh, I don't remember exactly, but I know he said like 1 in thousands.
That's crazy.
Thousands. So it was a yeast infection. Mm-hmm. I can't think of the name.
Right.
Candida albica, I think, is it Candida albica, I believe. but yeast infection, like so yeah, you're correct. Fungus is way, way more rare.
Yeah.
But of course, that's what they try to do, right?
Oh,
like,
naturally. It's always your fault.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
What did you do?
Yeah. Yeah. That's how medicine works, man.
So
4 major surgeries in the span of what, 60 days?
Yeah.
That's wild, man.
It is when you think about it.
Yeah. I mean, look, again, it's a situation you had to go through, at least the 3 after you had to do that, right? But when you're going through it, it's like you're kind of blinded to the seriousness, you know, because you're put in a situation where like all you can do is go forward. There's no going back now. Mm-hmm. So you just got to do it. But now you look back on it. I mean, does it like mess with your head at all that like how serious that even possibly could have been for you?
To be honest, I yes and no, because I still think I struggle to understand how serious it was.
Yeah.
Like if I did a deep dive into the fungus that I had,
right,
I should be dead.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Which that's totally wild.
Right. And surgery in general is not good. And that's another thing. I went under 6 times. I was under anesthesia 6 times because
that is
all
terrible.
the surgeries, as well as since my back was so bad from the fungus, they couldn't get me to do scans because I would just have spasms and freak out.
Right.
So they would have to put me under for CAT scans. So that's another thing. Anesthesia is horrible for you.
Oh, absolutely.
So in a span of 60 days, I had been put under 7 times. 7 times. Wow. Now 8 times because now I had my wisdom teeth removed. I forgot about that. I'm just
surgery 6.
I'm talented. I'm talented. Right? So quick recap. August of last year, hernia surgery, umbilical hernia surgery. March was initial back surgery. Then pretty much back to back to back, with the last one ending in June 6th. And then last month was the emergency oral surgery, which, by the way, apparently the doctor said the antibiotics could have been what weakened my teeth, because I haven't had that issue in a long time, and suddenly it started killing me when I had the antibiotics in me.
Interesting.
Yeah, so win-win situation.
Yeah, I mean, you're just batting 1,000.
And that's the main thing, is the antibiotics. The main thing that I'm struggling with now, which is part of what I want to talk about, is the struggle of like anxiety, the depression I'm feeling from which I've always kind of struggled with on and off. Yeah. But now the side effects of the antibiotics I'm on, it's like a whole nother level.
Really?
You know? Yeah. It is, yes.
So it's intensifying that. And you have to be on them for how long?
A little less than a year now.
Wow.
So the IV antibiotics was 8 weeks starting from when I was in the hospital. So I finished that a week and a half ago, and now I've been on the oral antibiotics, and it's the same side effects.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them. I get crazy headaches if I don't drink like 3 gallons of water, which, let's be real, that's hard.
No, it's very hard.
That's different. Yeah. Yes. I have to drink a ton of water. A gallon is tough. Try 3.
I mean, look, I've done it in bodybuilding preps. Like, I've done it, and like, dude, I know you're at the bathroom every 15 minutes.
And you know how
you haven't gone since we've been sitting here.
And I have to. Just to be clear. Yeah. So that's the main struggle now. Obviously, like you said, blinders are on. I know I have no choice. I got my son, I got businesses, I got my wife, all of this stuff that I need to be concerned about, that I have to show up for, you know? So it's like, suffer in silence, just like most men do, you know?
Yeah.
And exactly that. Like, I would find when I'm in a sauna or when I'm in a shower, or, you know, most times, look, I used to be the type that would struggle to open up and be vulnerable in front of anybody. And I still do, but I'm getting a lot better. So like Daniela would be the only, for the most part.
It's normal to lean on your partner. Generally, the one person you can be vulnerable with, or you should be able to be vulnerable with. I mean, some men don't even do that. You know, if anything, some men have a fear of like getting vulnerable with their wife or their girlfriend because they don't want to be seen as the weaker one, right? There's always like this dynamic in relationships, and like men always have to feel like they're this like superior party in the relationship. And like, I don't know, man, I've never subscribed to that idea. Like when I was younger, I held things in. Once I got older, and especially once I got sober, I learned that like getting things out helps so much. You know, there's a saying that your secrets keep you sick. Things like this are like mold, right? So what happens with mold when it lives in a cold, dark attic? It just grows. But if you put sunlight on it, what happens? The mold dies. So it's the same concept, right? So if we have all these things churning inside of us and we just keep it, it just grows. It just gets worse. But if we expose it to your partner, our family, friends, it almost seems to lessen the burden a little bit.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Because again, that's really the only source I talk to.
Right.
And I do feel better. The only other release I have is in silence, like I said, which is not really a release. It's like,
no,
but
it's
it is
terrible.
nice to get it out, you know?
Yeah. I think it's really important.
Oh, 100%.
Really important.
Because again, that would be in the morning before I have to go work and run a business.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
so
and
it's like,
not to mention too, you look at the suicide rate in men, I mean, it's very high, very, very high. And it's because of that dogma. It's because of that way of thinking. I think if more men were to open up and we didn't have that like societal pressure to be this big macho guy, that it would probably be a much lower number. And the truth is too, you can do that and still be macho.
that's my logic.
You know
You
what I
could
mean?
be both.
You can be both. Absolutely.
Not necessarily. I get what you're saying, and I agree with you. But the whole macho shit, I don't get it. I guess I don't understand. So I understand the role of being a man,
Right.
security and
For sure.
and, providing and
For
stuff
sure.
like that. I understand all that, but I feel like we're just past the time where you have to be macho. I do agree that you should be able to protect yourself, protect your family
For sure. Yes.
when you need to.
At least to me, that is part of being a man, being the protector, the
100%.
provider. But that also doesn't mean that you have to be this hardened shell.
Which is what I mean.
Yeah. And I feel like that's so old school. That's like our grandfather's way of thinking, that like that old school, like got to be tough as nails type shit, and it's like, I don't know, man, in today's day and age, like granted, you don't want to be like a wimp, you know what I mean? Like you don't want to be crying all over social media every day and crying to your buddies every day. But like, if like some things are on your chest, like just say it. Just say it. Talk about it. Get feedback. Getting feedback from others allows you to open your mind up and maybe you'll find different solutions because of something one person said.
Yeah. Sometimes you might be wrong. Sometimes you might be right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sometimes you might be realizing that you're like kind of overly negative, which is obviously going to impact your life.
Yeah.
Because look, that's just, I witness that on a daily basis. If I remain in that negative space, no matter what's going on,
breeds more of it.
Oh, it just keeps coming.
It gets way worse.
It keeps coming.
And to reiterate, something we touched on it a little bit earlier, but we're saying these things and it doesn't mean that you have to be like soft either. Like there's this fine balance that I think you have to find because at least in my opinion, as a man, you still need to be the provider, protector. You still need to go out into this very cold world and be able to navigate it. Because if you don't, it will absolutely eat you alive. I think what we are saying is there has to be that side of you too that allows you to feel what you're feeling, and not just shove it away. Those things will compound and build, kind of like we talked about. And, eventually, we talked about the suicide rate too. I mean, eventually those things build up to a point where you can't ignore them anymore. And usually at that point, it's way too late to try and, tackle those things with just a friend. That's usually like where therapy comes in and things of that nature. You know what I mean?
Completely agree, obviously, because we have that logic, right? And some other people might have that logic or they haven't fully developed to the point where they're open to talking about like being open with that type of stuff, right? Meaning like opening up about their depression or anxiety or whatever the case may be. So the point is like, there might be some people that are ready for that, but the world is not.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So
it's almost like society isn't ready for that,
Exactly what you said.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And like, here's the God's honest truth. And any man who watches this and disagrees with me is just a liar.
100%.
Okay. So men in their dark times, when they're by themselves, feel all these things, right? They will cry. They will go through all those negative thoughts in their head. And if you tell me you don't, I'm sorry. I don't believe you. Because that's just, we're emotional beings, right? If we were not, they wouldn't exist. That's just the truth. We're human beings and like, we're going to feel all those things. And in my opinion, I think it's best that you feel those things with a trusted person in your life so you can bounce things off of and get it off your chest and get other feedback. Sometimes we're not built to face certain things alone. Not only opening up yourself to other people, but having outlets as well, I think is super important. For me, it's working out, right? So like for me, it's bodybuilding. I love weightlifting. I love the dieting. I love the whole process. It gives me like a sense of purpose in life outside of my obligations of my daughter, making money, my relationship, all those things. And I think a lot of men struggle with purpose. They wake up every day, they go to work, they come home, maybe have a drink or two, pet the dog, pat the kid on the head, go to bed, wake up the next day, do the same thing over and over and over again. And like that sense of loss of identity, I think can feed into all that stuff as well.
I get attest to that, right? Because but for those who don't know, I'm a super active person. Like I'm not a bodybuilder, but I obviously care about my health and I just like to be active. So this whole debacle with all these surgeries and stuff like that is exactly what you're saying. The fact that I cannot do the stuff that I want to do is feeding into the depression, the anxiety, the stress, and it's driving me insane. Insane. And right now, like I just started being able to do cardio, which yay, cardio.
Hip, hooray, right? Yeah.
Walk on a treadmill on an incline for 45 minutes.
There's people that do that for fun, whether you believe that or not.
Listen, I enjoy it because I take that time to watch stuff that I learn from.
Right.
I listen to podcasts or I like to watch podcasts.
Me too.
When I'm on a treadmill, I got to watch something.
Same.
Otherwise, I'm just staring at my wall in my garage.
No, it's terrible.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah. I can't listen to music either.
Agreed.
I can't listen to music. I have to be like watching something.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It's a nice distraction.
Yeah,
so
really
I take that time to educate myself any way I can. So I agree with you. Is my point is it feeds into the issues that are a big struggle for men that I think that they struggle to talk about. At least openly. So and it's so unfortunate that it has to be that way because we know deep down
that everybody does it.
Because I used to be that tough guy.
Yeah, man.
And I still am to us. I'm not trying to preach and act like I'm the perfect guy that talks about his feelings and this and that, but I've definitely grown a ton.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely more open to it. And I think a huge part of it, I get attest to Luca.
Yeah.
I always say like as soon as Luca was born, I just softened up.
Yeah, me too, man.
Okay.
No, me too.
So it's not just me.
Big time. No. And like, look, you've never had a little girl. I've never had a little boy. Mm-hmm. But like when they handed me this little girl, I bawled like a baby. I can't believe that whoever's up there entrusted me with like this perfect little angel. You know what I mean? Like, what are you thinking? I don't know. Like in that moment, I had felt like a different love in my life. Like every love I've ever had up until that point was either my mother or romantic.
Yeah.
Right. And then you get like this different love.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I didn't even know how to deal with it at first. I had like this roller coaster of emotions after she was born. Depression, fear. What if something happens to her?
Is something wrong?
Your brain. Yeah. I'd like stare at the baby monitor. Yeah. Yeah. And there's that too. That's a humongous piece is like, will I be a good father?
Yeah.
I'm not one of these guys who can sit here and say like, oh, I had this terrible dad. My dad was phenomenal. He was one of the best dads you could ever ask for. And like, I was like, I don't know if I could be him. You know what I mean? I don't know if like I have it in me to be the type of man that he was, and that was like a big fear at first.
It's a tough thing to live up to, right? Because I agree. My dad, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal father.
Yeah.
Gave me everything I wanted and more.
Yeah.
Most would say I was spoiled. And I agree.
Yeah.
I agree because he did a lot of stuff that I wouldn't do for Luca. So it's a hard thing it's tough shoes to fill.
Yeah, no, it is.
It's tough shoes to fill. So, and look, the times are so different. So I applaud my parents more so than ever because they did all the stuff that we do without any of the technology.
Yeah, I know.
Any of the gadgets.
No distractions.
No applications to track feeding times. No magical toys to distract them. No iPads, no iPhones, no nothing.
Nothing.
Isn't that impressive?
Yeah.
You guys think that was easier though, because there was less distractions?
Yes and no. That is a good point, right? Because a huge issue, like so, me and Daniela, we made it a point that we don't want Luca to have the iPhone or iPad or any type of tablet.
It's an emergency.
Correct. It's a freaking out in a restaurant, and even still now.
Yeah.
Before, I'll be honest, like we didn't want to disturb other people.
Of course.
And it's funny how that works, right? Because the whole time while she's pregnant, we're talking about things, and it's like, we're never going to do that.
Oh, let's segue right back to the beginning of the podcast that you don't know about situations until you're in them.
Correct.
That's just the truth. Because I'll tell you what, me and my ex-wife said the same exact things. well, we're not going to be those parents. They're going to eat super healthy. Look at me. I eat like super healthy every single day. You know what I mean? Like
I'm laughing
I
because
don't
I
miss.
know more than anyone else.
Yeah. Like I don't miss. You know what I mean? Like that's not an ego thing. That's just truth. And like, my kid's whole menu is like mac and cheese, Cheetos, bread. It's a miracle if I can get her to eat something with chicken in it. And if it is, it's generally not the chicken you want them to be eating.
Yeah.
So it's
fried.
Exactly.
McDonald's,
exactly.
Wendy's.
Yeah. It's only McDonald's for her. She doesn't mess with anything else. I've tried. I'm like, look, man, Chick-fil-A is better. And she just won't do it.
I get it. Look, so Luca's picky, but not as picky as her because I got to witness that.
Yeah, yeah. She was here.
But he's so picky. He is. It's tough. It's tough, and that's another struggle. More so for Daniela because I see him growing and getting strong, and
of course
he's talking everything. He's healthy.
Yeah,
So I'll have my days like when she leaves for an extended period of time. It is tough. I get it because it's like, and she freaking meal prep for the kid, and I would still struggle.
Yeah,
So it's like. But I could kind of relate a little bit more to the frustration because it's like her frustration is she makes like gourmet healthy meals and this kid just does not eat it.
Yep. Dude, I learned a long time ago, man. It's just basic, bro. I just give her the basic stuff and I slowly start to introduce things, and like, again, segueing kind of back to the beginning of the podcast, like it's just me, dude. You know what I mean? So like, before my ex-wife would let her slip on a lot of things, just kind of let her do whatever she wanted, like that's our baby. You know? I am definitely much more stern now because I think I look back at when she was young and I let too much slip. Like I just, oh no, she'll be fine. She'll be fine. It's okay. And like now that I'm watching her and now that I'm the sole caregiver, I'm thinking about like, what kind of person do I want her to be? Do I want her to be a spoiled little brat? Do I want her to be this picky person when it comes to food? Because look, I was a terribly picky eater. I was a spoiled little brat for a little bit when I was a kid. And like, you know what? I was like, that's not going to happen on my watch. Not anymore. Like I mentioned, like my whole like mindset changed.
There's a shift.
Yeah. When this whole thing happened to me. And now, I mean, we're broadening her horizons. You know what I mean? So things are getting better in that department. The whole like, being a good dad was just a big fear. I just didn't know if I was going to be any good at it.
Yeah.
And like, I think that's something else that a lot of guys don't talk about. And like, I don't know, maybe some men don't care either.
100%. So I saw a clip that resonated like pretty strongly with me. It makes you think. I saw a clip that said, it was something short that said something like, parenting's only hard for good parents.
Yeah, that's so true.
How accurate is that?
That is so true. There are definitely some people who should have never procreated.
100%. But they're over here bragging about how parenting is easy.
Yeah. It's easy if you let them run their own lives.
Which is my point, which makes you a bad parent. So
of course.
It's like the perfect, I could not agree with that more.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that too.
And I definitely don't look at myself as some superhero parent. I'm
no, me either, man.
Learning and growing.
Mistakes, and like, even all this stuff that we've been talking about, like we're talking about like the ideal world, right? Like if I was to pick exactly what I think, should be perfect, that's the kind of stuff we're talking about. It doesn't mean that we do these things perfectly.
Of course.
Right. It's like they're good guidelines. And like every day, it's the human condition where we fall short of these things. But to strive for perfection, I think is the goal, right? Even if you fall short, it's okay. But if you lose that strive for perfection, then you start to settle.
For sure.
Things that like don't seem like a big deal become a big deal.
There's so many things that I've been seeing recently. I don't know if it's because like I knew the podcast was coming, so I'm trying to get like almost like get ammunition.
Yeah, you're doing like homework.
So I another thing I saw was like a side by side of two different parenting styles, and it's basically, or not really. It's like it said something like same parenting, two different situations, and it's they're at the playground with their kid and they're interacting, they're putting their kid on the slide, and then the next clip shows they're on their phone. And the kids just going down the slide and playing by themselves.
Yeah.
That hit hard with me too.
Yeah, man,
because
I'll admit I'm guilty as hell of that.
Same.
Guilty.
Same. So
guilty as charged.
Not as of recent, I've been thinking about getting another phone for just business. That way I could disconnect way easier because I don't have to be checking my phone thinking that it could potentially be business.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I have to. Just like you have clients that you have to answer to.
I mean, like my whole life's on this thing.
But at the same time, I do think there's also, I do think we overdo it.
Yeah, I definitely know I can because, at the same time, it's like, we sent each other, you sent me this clip and I was like, oh, I'd already posted that because like this guy was talking about that. He was like, guys wake up every day and like they have three main things that they got to think about, right? They got to be emotionally available. They have to be the best version of themselves they can possibly be. And yet they still have to make time to be there for their children and their family and do all that. And like, that can be a lot to juggle, man. And look, and that's not to say that women don't have those same issues. Okay. Yeah. The men just talk about it less. And it's like, this wouldn't even be a topic if it was talked about more.
Which is why we're talking about what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So females have no issue talking about their feelings.
Especially with each other, man.
Girls' night?
Oh my God. It's like, it comes so naturally. You know what I mean? Like, they can just lay out all their crap.
Which we do not do.
No. When guys get together, it's like, we just don't do that.
I agree completely. Including when you have an issue with your significant other.
Yeah.
It is not common for guys to go and vent that out to their guy friends, No. Usually we just, to be honest, I don't think I've done that a single time. Maybe to my brother.
Right.
Maybe to my brother because I know he can relate more than anyone.
Right. Exactly.
But to friends and coworkers and other people, no. I'm kind of jealous. Obviously, right? Because it's not that you don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I feel like you do want to talk, but it goes full circle with what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think there's a fear behind it, man.
Yes.
There's a fear of, am I going to be judged? Well, let's say we're having an issue with our significant other and we want to talk to a male friend about it. It's like, well, is this male friend now going to look at my relationship differently?
Or go tell his wife.
Or go tell his wife, and then they gossip about it. And like, you know what I mean? There's like this fear of what others think behind it.
Yep.
And I think that's just so natural to have. But, it's kind of a shame that like it has to be that way. How many issues could be resolved if things were just out in the open? If you were able to just talk to your buddy and be like, look, man, I'm going through X, Y, and Z. Like, I don't really know what to do. And like your buddy may have gone through that situation before. He can give you what he did. And then you may be able to apply that to your life. One of the beauties about me getting sober is that's exactly how AA works.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So like AA is all about, okay, well, these guys know how to not drink and pick up drugs anymore. And I clearly do not. So when things come up in my life, I'm going to talk to these guys on how they did it. How did you not pick up drink or drug when this happened? And they tell me, and boom, I apply it in my life. And guess what? It works. And, in my mind, I was like, why don't I just apply those principles to everything in my life? And man, when I did that, like, it changed my whole world. You know what I mean? It changed who I was as a person. Like, I don't really argue with anybody. I don't fight with anybody, unless people try to treat me like a doormat. That's totally different.
Disrespect is
disrespect is something I don't tolerate, but like, I don't engage in like arguments and stuff like that anymore just because the emotional maturity of like being open has just like changed who I am as a person.
And obviously forgive my ignorance, but what are the principles? I don't know if that's like.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah. I mean, so look, everybody knows, you hear like 12 steps, right? And however it's portrayed in the movies is absolutely not how it is in real life. I just want to say that it's cringe watching how they portray it in the movies. But like, there's 12 steps and then there's 12 principles behind each step, right? And, there's like honesty, integrity, willingness, brotherly love, service. That program focuses a lot on a higher power and God. And look, people can get into that if you want. You can believe whatever you want. I truly don't care, but all those principles are just about being a good person. Mm-hmm. That's really all it is. If you just like step back and look at all of them, it's like, okay, well, this is just a good dude, So like when I applied those things to like business, to my friendships, to my relationship with my child, I was able to be more open and I was able to express myself in a way that like didn't offend somebody, because I think that's even another rabbit hole is like, well, how do I tell you that I'm mad at you without you being mad back?
Yeah.
That's tough, right? How do I not offend you and let you know like, hey dude, what I think you did is kind of messed up, or hey, you hurt me in this way. With men, it's almost immediate defensiveness. It's immediate, like put the dukes up. I've kind of learned how to say things in ways to where like I'm getting my point across, but in a very calm, mellow way.
Non-confrontational.
Exactly. I don't have that confrontation in my life,
What would you say the main principles or things you took away from AA that help you in life overall? Because you said you kind of applied them to all things in your life.
I mean, the first one is honesty.
Yeah.
It's amazing how if you're just honest, you you don't really get in a lot of crap in your life, man.
Because you don't have to keep track of your...
No. Look, you admit when you're wrong. Okay. Like I'm the first to admit when I'm wrong. And I know that's like not a trait that most human beings in general carry because it's ego driven to think that you're always right. But like admit when you're wrong, make it right, and just stay honest in your life, man. Like if you can do those things, you will avoid a lot of problems. I know because it happened to me. You know, I was in conflict with so many people for so long. You know, in fact, I just got into an argument yesterday with a former client of mine where, you know, this guy felt so passionately that he was right. And like, you know, I tried my best not to offend him, but like let him know like, hey dude, like what you're saying is completely wrong. and like you're stepping into like disrespectful territory, and please stop. You know what I mean? And like he wanted to take it in that other direction, and he finally blocked me because I was being probably too reasonable with him. You know what I mean?
It's a funny way to say.
Yeah, exactly. I was being too reasonable. So like, it's like, okay, well, this guy is not going to fight with me.
He's
so
too right.
So I'm just going to block him now. But yeah, if you can do those things, man, you can just, you know, be honest, admit when you're wrong. And when you are wrong, make it right. Man, there's a lot of conflict you can avoid in life that way.
Isn't it crazy that, like, in my opinion, majority of the issues that happen can be fixed via just speaking?
Oh,
which is like
almost all of them.
Really, we had
almost
this conversation not long ago.
Yeah,
which is, and it happens in anything, relationships, your marriage, whatever, same thing. Relationships, marriage, same thing. Work environment. Almost anything, you know, it's like if you choose to bottle it up and not discuss it, then how's it going to get fixed?
It'll never.
It won't, right? The only thing that will happen is time will pass, you'll forget about it, or just push it down,
or resentment grows.
Correct.
You know,
you'll push it down, but you'll never truly move on, and then resentment grows, and then it's a whole nother issue.
Yeah, it's completely new. It becomes a thing that it never had to be. And if the communication and the openness was there to begin with, who knows if that problem would have even ever existed to begin with.
Agreed. You know? Agreed. And it can be applied to so many things.
Absolutely.
And so that's part of the whole conversation we're having is like all of these issues that men have just from feeling like they can't talk to anybody.
Yeah.
Can be maybe not avoided, but at least, you know,
at least
mitigated.
Yeah. At least mitigated. You know, because look, there's going to be times where like you won't be able to process things with another human being fully. Like you'll have to go through that self process, kind of like what I talked about earlier, right? Like, you know, when Samantha passed, like the community outpouring was incredible and it was really great, but it didn't help me heal, right? Like I had to do that part. You know what I mean? But who knows if that community outreach hadn't happened, how much longer that inner process would have taken.
Yeah.
You need to be open enough to hear those opinions. But at the end of the day, you know, there is like that inner work that you have to do.
You're the only one that could truly kind of like, I don't want to say fix yourself, but control the outcome of your life.
Yeah, no, of course.
You know?
Yeah.
So like we can listen, and it happens to me all the time. It's like, what's going on with you? I'm stressed out. Why are you stressed out? This is why I'm stressed out. You lay it all out there. Oh, well, don't think about it that way.
Yeah.
Right. But that, and it's no offense to the people that are trying to help you.
No.
But it's like, you don't think I've tried that?
Yeah.
Trust me, I've tried it.
Yeah. And look, there's a lot of like good examples, bad examples out there. You know, they're like, you're going to like, not everybody you open up to is going to give you like the primo advice, you know, but it gets you in the act of doing it. That's the important part. Right. So like they say like repetition is the mother of all skills. Right. So even if like the first couple of people you talk to about your issues don't really give you the best feedback, it's okay, because if you keep doing it, you're going to find the guy who does. You're going to find the guy who says one sentence to you and it's going to change the way you think. You know, and if you hadn't opened up to the three idiots before him, who knows if you would have made it to him.
So you said, and I'm kind of backtracking here, but you said the steps of AA helped you change your life.
Yeah.
Do you feel that those principles and concepts applied to majority of things can be fixes for the majority of people?
Oh, we talk about it all the time. I mean, like there are guys who like actually do the program, and like we say it all the time, it's a cheat code for life. It is. I got cheat codes, man. And like most people hear that, they hear AA and they go, oof. You know what I mean? Yeah. Look, I did it for years, you know, and I really needed it. And you know, I was like, oh no, keep that, you know, cult stuff away from me. And really all it is it's a design for living. That's all it is, man. It's a design for living, and literally anybody could take something away from it. And you just replace the word alcohol with whatever your problem is, and it's crazy how it could pretty much fix it for you. I just feel like those principles can be applied to anybody and help enhance their life. It did for me, and it did for hundreds of people that I know. But again, that also boils down to you doing the work. You got to bring the shovel, dude. You know what I mean? You can't expect the mountains to just move. It takes that repetition. It takes doing it. And like I said, it kind of goes back to that, like repetition being the mother of all skills. Like you consistently get in the act of faking it till you make it, just taking the steps, doing these things, it becomes like second nature to you. And then when the bombs are really going off in your life, like what happened to me, man, it just happens. I immediately reached out to you. I immediately reached out to all my close friends, and it was all of a sudden, it was like, you took me in, and like all of a sudden things just started working out. What would have happened if I hadn't done that? We don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Things could have been way, way worse for me.
Yeah.
But I was able to reach out to the people that matter. And then, those people ended up helping me. That can be applied to anything, even something so small. If you just reach out to the people that matter, you'd be amazed at like how life just kind of starts to start working out in your favor. It's hard to look back and say, what if I hadn't, right? Because I did, right? But the truth is, I wouldn't be where I am here, and that's the most important part. Regardless of what's going on out here, like I wouldn't be where I am here, and I definitely wouldn't be as available as I am for new relationships, for my daughter, for my friends. But definitely wouldn't be sitting here doing this podcast. I'd probably be grouped in with all the other widows and widowers who are stuck in their beds all day because they're just unable to release what's going on inside of them.
Yeah. What you just said, like being stuck in bed all day, it's like you hear people that say depression isn't real and it's not real, it's all in your head, this and that. I'm like in the middle, and I suffer with depression and anxiety. So I feel like there's like a happy medium kind of thing, almost like
I have thoughts on that.
It's like I choose to go to work and continue my life and run the businesses and because I don't have a choice. You don't think sometimes I want to just lock myself in my room and go under the covers, but like I don't have a choice. I don't have an option. Yeah. And I don't want to. I don't want to go lock myself in my room and do nothing,
It solves nothing.
And it has nothing to do with me knowing that I need to provide. I have a son. Obviously it does. It does. I don't know why I said that, but I feel like even if I didn't, I still wouldn't want to be that person, you know?
Right.
So
I heard a quote a long time ago that like, you're not responsible for sadness, but you're responsible for depression. Just like you're not responsible for anger, but you're responsible for resentment. So we're not responsible for the initial response, right? The initial shock, the initial sadness, but we're responsible for carrying it.
What you decide to do with it.
Correct. That clutching that we can do, we're very responsible for that. And that's not to say that some people aren't predispositioned chemically to do that. That's definitely a real thing, But I also think that like people who are suffering with severe anxiety, severe depression, those things, they need to seek outside help. You know what I mean? Like you need to talk about these things with people. If you need medication, okay. That's perfectly okay too. You need to look for solutions. It's the people that don't look for solutions and stay stuck. That's where the problem lies.
So I can't really preach on this topic. Like I talk about it sometimes, but not nearly as much as I probably should. And largely because of the fact that I don't want to stress my wife out. Right.
Yeah. Like become a burden.
Exactly. Becoming a burden to other people.
Yeah.
And of course her logic is not, she doesn't feel that way. She wants me to open up as much as I possibly can. And I've become a lot better, like I said before, but if I told her every day, trust me, she has enough on her plate. Yeah. And it's not to say that I don't have a lot on my plate, but like, why become a burden to somebody else that I love and care about? So I do agree with you. I think, and I've been saying this, I want to find a therapist.
And that's why it's so important to have a network of people, whether it's your wife, your best friends, your parents, if they're still alive, your grandparents, if they're still alive, you know, the people who really care about you in your life. Because you're right, man. Like, you don't want to put that whole burden on just one person. Because the truth is, man, like, that person is going through the same things you are. It's a balancing game of them leaning on you, you leaning on them. So to have that group that you can go to, you know, it allows you to kind of spread it out a bit.
Obviously, completely agree. Sometimes I feel like it's hard to know if you have that network or know who to reach out to, right? So with that being said, look, I think we need to wrap up here. We've been talking for over an hour. So for those who feel that they don't have anybody to talk to, feel free to comment below or reach out to us in any fashion that you want to. Also, if you did enjoy the video, the podcast, episode 1, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Also, feel free to leave feedback in general, you know, like what we could do better or what you want us to talk about, whatever you feel you want to talk about or comment on. Please let us know, guys. We appreciate it very much. I'm Jared.
I'm Billy. Peace.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Dadtrepreneur. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for future episodes. Stay connected with us on Instagram @Dadtrepreneur Podcast. See you next time.